What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media. Broncos Seahawks Monday Night Football. Quick reaction to Nathaniel Kenneth Hackett's final decision as the fourth quarter was winding down. Our updated top 10 power rankings heading into week 2, as well as tonight's Thursday Night Football matchup between the LA Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. That and much more when we are back in 30 seconds.
One-on-one.
Clement flares out to the right. Caught over the middle. He's at the 45. Are you kidding? Oh! He's going to go! Brady gets hit. The ball is out. And Philadelphia has
it. What is going on, everybody? As I said earlier, this is NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channel. If you're new to the channel, head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. And while you're on the page, head on over to the link tree. It's in our bio. It'll take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive on tonight's show, head on over to the YouTube channel specifically. It's where we can pull up your questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, whatever you have for us tonight regarding what happened last week, tonight's matchup, gambling advice, fantasy football, whatever you guys want to get into, we will get into on tonight's show. I'm one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter @DylanJD98. To my right, wrong way, there we go, my man Scotty. Check him out on Twitter @ScottyDrowned. What's going on, brother?
What is good, bro? Just sipping on my Crown Royal and peach in a can. Enjoying.
Just listen, I know it was a leftover. Tell me it's not warm.
It is not warm. It was in the fridge, so it's all right.
We might have had a major problem if you just picked those out of your garage, just out of a box somewhere.
Not on a Thursday, at least. Not on a Thursday.
Crown Royal. Listen, I had this. This is free advertisement right here for Barley Creek Brewery. But this right here, hold on, let me work the camera here. It's called Pocono Punch. Okay.
Punch. Yeah, you brought that to my attention before.
It's like 7.3%. But it tastes and looks like fruit punch. It's utterly amazing. So if you're ever in the Poconos area, in Bartonsville, Stroudsburg type of area, if you know where Great Wolf Lodge is, it's right around there. And it only comes from there as well. So there you go. Free ad for Barley Creek. But with all that being said, man, let's jump into some football talk. And before we get into tonight, which I cannot wait to get into because this has game of the year type of feeling to it, right? With a lot of implications. And we also have our power rankings pulled up to get into. I want to start with Monday night. The Seattle Seahawks pull out the win in Seattle over the Denver Broncos in Russell Wilson's return. Something I wasn't expecting. Like we went Monday night, we went over all the upsets from Sunday. We talked about how the Colts tied the Texans. We talked about how the Steelers beat the Bengals. We talked about how the Bears beat the Niners. And then lo and behold, here comes another one right down the pipe on Monday night. Something I wasn't expecting. What was your overall takeaway from this game? Because I see a lot of conversation focused on Russell Wilson, and people are kind of putting Russ in the doghouse. And I can't get behind that part because Russ was
with you.
Russ,
I'm so glad you said that.
Russ played well on Monday night. There were a lot of miscues, obviously on the goal line, back-to-back fumbles. The play calling was iffy. Obviously, they had to be the most penalized and undisciplined team, specifically in the first half of the entire week. Their defense was atrocious in the first half for Geno Smith. We all know the decision that came down at the end by Nathaniel Hackett and the clock management. So a lot of other factors went into this loss outside of Russell Wilson's play. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I thought the same exact thing. I thought there was a lot of negative energy going towards Russell Wilson. And there's not a lot of plausibility behind that. Like, why is he getting held like under such a narrow scope? There are several. I hear a little bit of an echo there. I don't know.
I think we're already. Yeah, I heard it for a second, but I think we're good.
Okay, cool. So, why is Russell Wilson held under such a narrow scope? Like, I don't understand that, especially after this game. 29 for 42. 340 yards, one passing touchdown. I get it. It's not – he wasn't the best in the red zone.
Dude, it's pretty damn good.
But it's his first game with the Denver Broncos as well. Like, And on top of that, when you look around the league, Joe Burrow had a terrible ass week 1. Derek Carr had a terrible week 1. Matthew Stafford had a terrible week 1, so on and so forth. It's week 1. Aaron Rodgers had a bad week 1, right? He was the MVP last year. Like, it's not the end of the world. And Russell Wilson didn't have a bad week 1. So, like, even to just balance it out even more with that, I thought that was one takeaway. The other side of it, exactly what you pointed to, the Denver Broncos are really, really undisciplined. Their defense specifically were just giving Geno Smith and that offense break after break. And then you throw in the 2 fumbles on the goal line. I mean, it seemed like everything was going wrong for Denver in week 1, and surely it did. They ended up losing. But nonetheless, I think it was one of those weird games. I'm not like just shifting my stock to the Seahawks. Like, I thought the Denver Broncos just played really bad. Seahawks played with a lot of energy, but did they deserve to win? I won't go that far. Geno Smith played a hell of a game, though. I'll give some credit there where it's due. But take away the defense, they gave up 17 points, but it feels like they gave up so much more, doesn't it? It felt like Seahawks were just moving the ball on them.
Well,
I don't know. It's a weird game.
They couldn't get off the field in the first half, which and it wasn't just not getting off the field. They were so undisciplined on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
That's what really kind of turned me off about them early on in the game, and specifically heading into halftime. Like, I just couldn't believe, like, this is how you look versus Geno effing Smith. This is what the offense is doing against a bad Seahawks defense that Jamal Adams got hurt 2 or 3 possessions in, and that's, you know, their biggest name on the defensive side of the ball. I did not like how Javonte Williams, you know, as a guy who had Javonte Williams anytime TD score, I was kind of a little biased, but, you know, I didn't like his usage inside the 10-yard line. They gave the ball to him 1 time inside the 10. I hated it. I hated the final play on the 3rd and 14, essentially, where Russ just kind of checks it down to him.
Yeah.
Now that is on Russ, not on anything else, but Russ checks it down to him. He's got to work to pick up 9 or 10 yards to even get them within 64 yards or whatever it was. So it was a really bad game, really undisciplined game by the Broncos. Now, the one thing I was looking for while you were talking, I'm a Russ guy in terms of on-field play.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people ripping Howard Eskin had something to say, and it was just so asinine. The next day, he tried to make a comment. The next day he tried to talk about how he's glad the Eagles didn't trade for Russ because, and you know, how he's been terrible in the red zone for, you know, in the last couple of years. And then it was the great, my man Rob Motti quote tweeted it and was basically like, "Hey, jackass, here's Russ's numbers in the red zone, and they were number 2 in quarterbacks in the last 5 years." So, like, know a little bit about what you're saying. However, Russ is extremely cringe. I don't know if you saw the video that came out today.
He is cringe, man. Is it the one? Go ahead. My bad.
He was no. Are you talking about the Family Faith football one?
No. I was talking about the whole interaction about him like plugging himself into a wall.
Okay, well, not even that. I have one that topped it. I was looking for it on Twitter and I could not find it. He was on the sideline going around at people, telling everybody they need to help out the defense while on the sideline, calling out run or pass. And everyone was it was extremely cringe. And then, like, the one time Seattle snapped the ball and everyone was like, pass. And then, like, someone posted it was like, Russell Wilson is the corniest dude ever. Let me see if I can find it while I'm still on here. But it was really strange, man. But nonetheless, it wasn't. Monday night was not Russ's fault. And I'll say this: let's get to the final play because that was the whole storyline of the game, right?
Yeah.
Daniel Hackett, the decision to, with 58 seconds left, run the clock all the way down to 20 seconds, finally call a timeout to only trot out your kicker to attempt the second longest kick in NFL history on the road when you just paid Russell Wilson $256 million to be that man. He did have success in the air that night. All right, whatever. You put the ball in his hands, he needs 5 yards. They don't get it. You still have 3 timeouts with 50-some seconds left. And then he starts calling his final 2 timeouts in the last 20 seconds. What are you doing, you dork? And he's like in the ref's ear, and there's a whole bunch of confusion. No, bro, you just wasted your first one when you ran the clock down to 20. So there's only 2 left. Why are you calling them? The game's over. So the Daniel Hackett, here it is. So hold on. If I can share this with you before we move on. Like this is really corny. You ready?
Yeah, I'm as ready as I'm gonna be.
Hey, sideline, run a pass. Hey, you gotta let them know. Come on, commit to it. You gotta let them know. Run a pass. Let's go. Gotta let them know. Run a pass. Run a pass. Let them know. 9-6. Let them know. Run a pass. Let them know. Run a pass. Nice and loud. Pass. Hey, sideline, run a pass. Come on, commit to it. You gotta let them know. Run a pass.
I don't know, bro. I don't know about this.
So, listen. I don't know if this. I don't know if this is a common thing on NFL sidelines. So maybe I'm off base here.
I mean, I don't hear that during games.
I've never seen that in my lifetime be a thing.
Me not clued in.
You gotta and he's so into. He's like, oh, help him out, run or pass. Why? Because Geno Smith's lighting your asses up in the first half. So yeah, just
you should have known. With the Broncos, Broncos country, let's ride.
Yeah, let's ride.
Yeah, man, we should have known.
Before we move on, what were your thoughts on Nathaniel Hackett, the decision to waste the clock, call a timeout, trot the field goal unit on, and then the next day come out and instead of just kind of not, deflected or kind of just give your reasoning, he basically says, yeah, well, looking back on it, we definitely should have gone for it. You think that's what your fan base or team wants to hear the day after that, in your head coaching debut?
You don't appreciate the honesty, Dylan?
It's not honesty.
I would have liked to. I guess I would have liked to have known what the thought process was behind what he did.
I don't know.
Just backtracking.
I think it's utter stupidity. No shit. You should have gone for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, he's a first-year head coach. The other thing, it brings up a good point to me in a sense is, you bring Russ in, you bring in, all this talent. You're trying to go for this Super Bowl run, right? This is this Super Bowl-ready team. They just need a quarterback is what they told us. And you bring in a first-time head coach. I mean, is that the right move in the first place? But that being said, he is a first-time head coach. That's not a good sign that he can't make those crucial decisions in the big moment. But at the same time, I did see Sirianni make some bad decisions at the beginning of the season last year.
But not like that, bro. We can question. Listen, you can question, game plan, scheme, personnel usage, everything that goes into throughout a game. We would absolutely lose our minds in this city if that was what came out in the head coach's first performance. This is the whole problem. He didn't just decide to kick the field goal and take the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands. You decided, and part of the blame goes on Russ too, dude. You're a Super Bowl champion, veteran, just got paid $256 million. It's on you to either demand the ball or be smart enough and have the field awareness and clock awareness to use a timeout. Bro, you wasted 38 seconds to make that decision. That was horrifying to watch. And when if you go back and watch the video of the Manning cast and watch Shannon Sharpe, Eli Manning, and Peyton Manning, all Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers, all Super Bowl champions. Shannon Sharpe's a Super Bowl champion, correct? Yeah. Did he win? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw that out there with that, but I'm pretty sure. To see them all kind of mock it and question it in the moment, and Peyton Manning called timeout 87 times before Nathaniel Hackett did. And then it gets down to that moment, and that was the final outcome. So I don't want to spend too much more time on that. It was a bad debut not from Russ, but the ending was a bad debut. Nathaniel Hackett was awful. The Broncos were the most undisciplined team in week one. They got some things to figure out, man. So speaking of, I'm interested to see this. So I'm going to start with mine. Let's get into our week 2 power rankings before we get into tonight's matchup.
I wanted to throw in there. Shannon Sharpe won 3 Super Bowls. Wow. So we are well on pace. We're good. We're good. Fact check.
Well, I was just thinking because in Denver, I was thinking the Elway time, and I couldn't put a finger on,
how many or if he got
right. I thought Elway got 1. I wasn't sure, yeah. So I didn't want to overstep and be like he,
I got
he definitely was without knowing.
But Shannon Sharpe, he's 3-time champion.
There you go. All right, let's get into right here our week 2 NFL Power Rankings. This will be a weekly thing here on the Thursday edition of NFL Turf Talk. Just kind of up and down. So here's mine. I can kind of go over what the changes are. So the only team knocked out of my top 10 that I had heading into week 1 and now heading into week 2 was my number 10 team from last week, the Indianapolis Colts. They were fringe top 10. You had a couple teams borderline right around them with the Broncos and the Raiders, who also lost, with the Saints, who came up with a victory. But ultimately, you tie the Houston Texans in your opener with that roster, and I thought all was fixed in QB land there. You're knocked out of my top 10 for the time being if you're Indianapolis. Outside of that, so the team that comes into my top 10 and not just hits the top 10, reaches 8, is the team out of the North, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, maybe this is a little too high for me. Maybe I'm punishing. You can't tell me that Minnesota should be behind the Packers. I can understand if you want to say that Cincinnati should be ahead of them because Joe Burrow's never going to play like that again. It was a crazy-ass game that ended in the final moments of overtime against a division rival. So maybe it's a little crazy to put them all the way up at 8. Drew saying Packers should be out. Listen, I'm not against it. Who would you put in?
Exactly.
I'm interested in know. Maybe the Saints. The Saints could potentially be that 10th team. But when you have a nail biter like that against Marcus Mariota and the Falcons, I'm not incredibly impressed with you either. But so the Vikings are the team in, the Colts are the team out. Outside of that, if I can remember correctly, the Bills jumped from 2-1 with their win over the Rams. The Chiefs jump from, I want to say, 4-2. They were incredibly impressive last Sunday in Arizona. The Chargers jumped from 4-3. They leaped Tampa. Now, Tampa didn't lose, so why would I demote Tampa one spot? The way they looked, they only scored 1 touchdown against Dallas. They only scored 19 points. Obviously, their defense looked amazing even before the Dak injury, but I got to bump the Chargers ahead of the Bucks. Number 5, this stays consistent. The Baltimore Ravens, they looked very impressive. They took care of business. Lamar showed me something with his arm. He only rushed a couple of times. But at the end of the day, you played the New York Jets. The other teams looked a little bit more impressive in their wins, so I can't bump you inside that top 4 yet. Number 6 is the LA Rams. I had them from 1. That's the biggest drop, 1-6, because I couldn't put them ahead of any of those other teams that had success in week 1, but they're not going to get dropped so far down towards the bottom of the 10. Number 7, I have our Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I had them at 9 last week, so they jumped up 2 spots. Again, they were they were a win in week 1. The offense looked really good. Obviously, the defense was suspect in the fourth quarter, clearly. But when you are the 1 in the 1-5 record of playoff teams versus non-playoff teams last year in week 1, at least you weren't one of those losses, right? That we talked about all week, right? So the Eagles is 7, Vikings, incredibly impressive. Not only Justin Jefferson looked amazing. The offense kind of slowed down after the first half or so, but they scored 23, holding Aaron Rodgers to 7 points. Now, I know they have a lot of question marks with their supporting cast, offensive line, etc., but the Vikings looked really good. Number 9, I do have Joey B, and the Bengals, they dropped from, I want to say, 6 to 9 for me. Again, you lost a home game in the opener coming off the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow looked really bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't expect him to look like that again, but you have to be, you were a negative last week. You have to be demoted in my rankings for the time being. Number 10, the Green Bay Packers go from number, I want to say they were 8 last week in my rankings. They drop from 8 to 10. I'm not ready to push the panic button yet, but I'm damn close. Philly Drew saying Rams just switch with us. I can't do that yet, man.
It's a little too reactionary.
Yeah, I can't. I get it. The teams I had of the Rams won, the Eagles won, but so did the Vikings. I didn't put them ahead of them either. The Rams on paper, they played the Bills, Super Bowl hangover. Now listen, if they come out
too much for losing to the number 1 team,
if they come out and
it was a bad loss, but still,
exactly. If they come out and look pedestrian against the Falcons, even if they win, but it doesn't look right, it doesn't look good, I'll have more question marks about the Rams. But I'm going to give them a slight, even though I demoted them 5 freaking spots, so I didn't give them too much of a pass. But I'll give them a slight pass for the time being. I bumped the Eagles up 2 spots. They have a test. This week's looking nice, man. Tonight, that we'll get into in a couple minutes, you have the 2 and 3 seeds right now for me in the Chiefs and Chargers. My 7 and 8s face off on Monday Night Football in Philly. So that's my top 10, man. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you're giving the Rams a pass, then you guys do not want to see my top 10. That's for sure. I definitely I told you last week I picked the Bills in that game. I thought the Bills would win that game. They had more to lose in that game. I can't penalize the Rams too much. I said I wouldn't move them from first. So I actually did move them from first. I had to
you have to, man. With that yeah.
They lost by 21 points. So yeah, I had to move off of that a little bit. But Buffalo Bills moving up to number 1. That was like an obvious one. They just went out. They beat the defending Super Bowl champion. It's as simple as that for the Buffalo Bills. Question is, they beat up the Vikes.
100. Oh, most likely 100%.
Oh yeah, maybe
they win. Right, they definitely in Scotty's rankings will jump the Vikings. Depending on what happens around the league, you had the Ravens playing Miami. You had the Chiefs and the Chargers tonight. Not that that's a loss by either side is going to drop them so much, but it would probably move the Birds up in that 6 range.
It depends. And you talk about tonight. I mean, it depends how these teams, if they were, whichever team loses.
I can't wait to get into tonight's game.
The Chargers get burnt out tonight. Hey, they're dropping down a little bit, because then I'm starting to think, oh, this is the same Chargers from previous seasons. If they lose this game tonight, they need to win this game. We'll talk about that. So I got Chargers number 2. I thought that was a very impressive win against the Raiders last week. I know a lot of people, it's almost like the Chargers don't get credit for that win against the divisional opponent week 1, where Justin Herbert played borderline perfect. Now, mind you, I look at them. You asked me why would I put them over, say, the Chiefs, right? I see the Chiefs are favored in this game tonight. They're at home. I look at their defense. That's where the difference is for me in reality.
Both teams are 1-0. And then you look at the rest of kind of the on the paper kind of stuff. Exactly.
And then the Rams, I couldn't drop them down too far. I could end up, I was going back and forth between them and the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes was incredibly impressive in that week 1. But honestly, watching that game with the Chiefs and the Cards, I'm starting to wonder, and we'll get the answer tonight, but like, how bad are the Cardinals is what I'm really wondering. But nonetheless, the Chiefs played great. I just couldn't move them over the Rams. I guess my thing with the Rams, can Matthew Stafford play worse than that? Like, maybe more turnovers, but like I don't see him playing much worse than
Sean
that.
McVay's going to come out blazing.
Sean McVay will be better.
The game plan.
Allen Robinson, a zero burger, like those type of things.
Jalen Ramsey ain't going to look like you look like.
Yeah, like I expect those things. These guys are too talented for that to not iron out, but I may be giving them a little bit too much of a pass. Maybe I'll give you that there. Chiefs, we already talked about. Bucks, I believe the Bucks actually moved up 3 for me, but maybe I had them too low to begin with.
Yeah.
So when I look at it that way, I look at them at 5. I think that's perfect because their defense is still really good. Like to see a little bit more from the offense going forward. Obviously, the Chris Godwin injury doesn't help anything. But nonetheless, Tampa Bay's defense is really good. They strap Dak in that off. And I know that offense isn't the same in Dallas, but that's still Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb.
That's a Dallas problem, though. That's no one else's fault, though, dude. Like
100%.
They did a terrible job this offseason.
It's 100. That's a topic right there. The Baltimore Ravens at number 6. I believe I had them at number 7, so I moved them up a little bit. Liked what I saw from Lamar Jackson just passing the ball.
Yeah.
He had 17 yards rushing in that game. That was very impressive. Minnesota Vikings, they're the new team in the top 10, right? And I think that's been across DSM. There might have been only one person that had Vikings in the top 10 last week. But they got a huge W against the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers are still in my top 10. I still have that respect for them. I do think after week
short leash, I agree.
I have my questions about.
I got my eye on them.
You know what I mean? Their ceiling. We saw their basement, right? Terrible. What does their ceiling really look like?
Right.
They got dismantled by the Vikings. But nonetheless, impressive win. The reason I put them over Philly, just a little bit more impressive of a win when you're doing it against the Packers.
I'd say, listen, Scotty, I had the Eagles ahead of them only because I didn't have the Vikings in there at all before. Fair. But I would argue that their win was a lot more impressive.
Yeah, and that's
the end of the day.
honestly what I'm going off of. And honestly, I'm gonna give the Eagles some motivation. Like, let's go out there and beat this Vikings team that people are touting Kirk Cousins around as an MVP candidate. Like, let's shut this
Not
shit
many
down
people.
on Monday Night
Some
Football.
people.
Yeah. Michael Irvin. Yeah, some people. Eagles at number 8. While the offense was great, we talked about the defense on Monday. Need to see some improvements, but also, are the Lions just a better football? They might just be better at football this year. We don't know yet. I gave the Eagles a little bit of a pass with the defense, but nonetheless, they did move up. I had them at number 10 last week. The team that's missing, right? We get down to the Bengals and Packers. They were there last week. They just moved down significantly. The team that's missing, the Broncos. I had them in there last week. I fell into that quarterback away belief, and I may have messed up, but that was going to be my question, as far as moving the Packers off the list. I already moved the Broncos down. The Raiders lost. Where do I go for my 10th team if I don't put the Packers there? I don't know. I no way I can, like the 49ers. You know what I mean?
Well, you can't. Not what the 49ers just did. Not the 49ers just did.
What was that?
Not with what the 49ers just did last week.
Right. So it's like, who do you
I'll tell you
go
this
to?
before you continue. After this week is going to determine a lot of that bottom 10 area, because you have the Packers who get to play the Bears at home. We're probably expecting them to win. He owns the Bears, but still, Bears coming off a win versus the Niners. You don't know. But like a team like the Saints, 1-0, we're not sold on them, but now they get the Bucks. If the Saints can walk away with a win somehow, that's going to elevate them big time.
Yeah,
see what the Raiders kind of do this week. So there's some or what about the Dolphins? Reversely, they're probably a little outside. If they beat the Ravens this weekend, that probably bumps the Dolphins into that 10. So
100%.
That 9-10 area gets very, very tricky after this week.
That's all great points. All great points. And those are matchups to look forward to. You already talked about the Eagles and the Vikings.
Yeah.
Maybe, depending how that game goes, maybe one of those teams fall out if they lose by in a bad enough way. So it is interesting. Cincinnati, that's my big team. That's the big drop. 4-9. Kept them above the Packers just for that reason. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to ever be that bad again.
Nah, I can't.
And I'm not saying that, Aaron Rodgers will be, but those receivers aren't changing.
That offensive line
that's not changing.
Until they get healthy, that offensive line's not going to look much better either.
Exactly. At least Burrow, you got Jamar Chase, you got Joe Mixon, you got T. Higgins, hopefully back from concussion next week or this upcoming weekend. They still got potential. They came back in that game in the Steelers. They lost by some, bad kicking. I got a lot more faith in the Bengals than the Packers right now. Ultimately, they did have to drop, though, with Joe Burrow playing that bad. That was really bad. And the Steelers were able to move the ball on them.
You bring up an interesting point, man. Like, what if Evan McPherson hits a kick and the Bengals win? Are we looking at them in this negative of a light in the power? Like, again, Joe Burrow still played bad. It was a close game versus Steelers team. We thought they would win, but nonetheless, like that's why Eagles fans needed to be more positive throughout this week. At the end of the day, there's a big difference between that win column and that loss column. So a not so pretty win is a lot better than an ugly loss. And that's what the Bengals had this week, was an ugly, turnover ridden kind of loss to the Steelers.
And look, we can even take it a step further, just on a grand scheme perspective for the Bengals, right? We talked about them before we got into the regular season this year, and we picked the Ravens to win their division. Why was that? Because of the tough schedule for the Bengals, and because the Ravens were beat up last year. Ravens get the win week 1 against New York Jets, so on and so forth. This could be a game where the Bengals look back and they're like, damn, we lost the Steelers week 1, Mitchell Trubisky. Because, it's only a matter of time in my eyes before Mitchell Trubisky gets benched anyways. Yeah. So you're going to look back on this game. I know. I might be taking a little far.
Well, no. I agree with you. But although I have a few plays for this Sunday that I love, and
you like Trubisky?
The Steelers are they're home dogs versus the Patriots, and you know my thoughts on the Patriots. Now I know you're out. TJ Watt. I know you're coming off a win. It's Michigan.
I'm with you though.
There's no shot they're home underdogs versus that offense. No shot.
Mac Jones, is he playing? Like he's having?
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't. I haven't heard. But regardless if he is or not, they should not be home dogs. I love them. Yeah, this is an early preview. I love them as home dogs, and I love another underdog I love to win outright is the Commanders. The Lions are for the first time
Are
in
they
years.
dogs against the Lions?
Yeah, man, 2.5 point dogs to open.
Lions
so.
are at home, but still, wow.
I don't care, man.
See, I was picking the Lions as like my upset. I was going to pick that as
now that they're
technically
they are technically favored, so it'll be interesting. But with that being said, let's get into tonight's matchup as Drew brings up. No Keenan Allen tonight for the Chargers. However, J.C. Jackson makes his LA debut. I haven't heard anything in terms of a snap limit, a snap count. Like, I don't know how that foot's holding up, but he did work out. He did warm up, and he is a go tonight. So that is big for them, even though they're losing their number one wide receiver target. Obviously, Harrison Butker is inactive on the Chiefs side. It could turn out to be huge. It's not Justin Reed. They did replace him with an actual kicker, but we don't know to the extent what that's going to look like. You could see a lot of 2-point attempts for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs tonight, but here's my thought process on this game. Either way of the outcome, Scotty, I think this is a big game in terms of being the top dog. The storyline that this kind of sets up for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Because both teams come in. So you have the Chargers on one hand, who are coming off a win over an AFC West opponent in the Raiders. So if they were to win tonight, that makes them 2-0 to start the year over this crazy, highly talented, ridiculous division that we talked about all offseason. If they were to win tonight, I feel like it's a statement on the road, specifically in Arrowhead. It's a statement by Justin Herbert. It's a statement by the Chargers. I picked them to win the division this year. This is our time is now.
Yeah.
Reversely, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, post Tyreek Hill era, come out, drop 44 in Arizona, beat the dog shit out of Kyler Murray and that squad. If they come out on a short week and beat or potentially light up that division rival in the Chargers, who a lot of people, including myself, have picked to win that division, that's saying you thought. You really did think that Tyreek Hill made that big of an impact in this offense when maybe he doesn't. So I think either way it slices out tonight, one way or the other, whoever starts out 2-0 is sending a statement to the rest of the division and the rest of the AFC, because I do think this game holds that big of weight because of what both teams did in week one. And it's kind of that, whose time is it still? It's Patty. Like, we're not talking. I feel like we talk about Patrick Mahomes like he's 32 years old. Like, we really do against other quarterbacks.
Like he is, with how much success
in terms of Justin Herbert, he's the savvy vet, right? So is it Herbert and the Chargers time, or the Chiefs saying not yet?
Yeah, man. Those are the two storylines to pay attention to. And, it's an interesting concept. I do think this game overall is bigger for the Chargers because they've been labeled as fraud.
100% agree.
Right? They've been labeled as frauds.
They're the team that hasn't done it yet. They haven't done anything yet. The Chiefs, we know what Mahomes and the Chiefs have done. You and the Chargers have not done anything.
Yeah, and they've added the pieces on defense. They've balanced out their team. And this is supposed to be the year. This is where your team is fully healthy at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. So, like, this isn't going to look the same later on. These are the full strength teams going head to head. And I love the idea of it. And I think this needs to mean the world to the Chargers. And I know we usually don't say this about regular season games, but this has a lot in terms of the Chargers' confidence going forward. If they lose this game, and there is a meaning in how they lose the game, right?
Right.
If they lose it and get blown out in KC, we're throwing the Chargers down the tube, right? Like they're
or reversely, if the Chargers squeak out a last-second field goal, I don't think that means Mahomes and them are cooked post-Tyreek.
Exactly. So it changes our perspective on either team. It's going to be interesting how it plays out. A couple things I'm looking at in this game. You added Khalil Mack in the offseason. Patrick Mahomes talked about that in his press conference. You have a guy on the other side of Bosa. Yeah. Can this disrupt Patrick Mahomes? I mean, you're talking about two top 10 pass rushers in the NFL on the same defensive line. Can this slow Patrick Mahomes down? 5 touchdowns, 360 passing yards last week.
Not bigger, but can Derwin I don't know if you saw the Derwin James number, the Travis Kelce numbers with Derwin James on versus off the field against the Chargers. The numbers are astronomically different.
They
are Jordan Davis on the field versus the run versus off the field versus the run type of like. Kelsey has little success with Derwin James on the field and in coverage compared to exploiting without Derwin James on the field. So that's definitely a matchup to keep your eye on tonight.
And it's nice. That's what I mean by being healthy, because Derwin James, we know, isn't always there.
That must suck for the Chargers, the fact that Keenan, their number one wideout, isn't healthy.
How much does that affect the passing offense?
Can
That's going to be the real question.
Can I ask you something?
And I'll throw that to you, like Keenan Allen.
That's the thing. I don't know, because I view Keenan Allen as basically he's a top 10 overall wide receiver, right around there. Like, I think he's desperately underrated and undervalued. However, when you have the gunslinger, but these are where I just feel like
you have Mike
Carter,
Williams,
right?
He is a dominating receiver.
To me, it's not the Bills without Stephon Diggs.
Right.
It's not the Rams without Cooper Kupp. It's not anything like that. But it is their number one target. So I don't think he has as big of an impact being off the field as some other teams would have trouble with. But it will be interesting, man, because he is that route runner. He is that third down, old, reliable kind of guy. Yeah. He's very efficient and effective. So it'll be interesting to see what Justin Herbert can do.
Fair enough. And
have another, Dill.
And that's what kind of leads me to my next point. And, I threw in Mike Williams there. I think there's potential for him to have a good night. I mean, Keenan Allen's not there. That means he gets more targets and maybe more targets down the field. This guy's a huge receiver. He makes big play after big play, but not Mike Williams, right? Is this an Austin Eckler game?
I hope so, considering I took him to score a touchdown tonight.
You got him what?
I have Austin Eckler anytime TD, and I
do as well.
In another parlay, I have Austin Eckler 40+ rush yards. It's not a lot. It's the lowest value you can get. And in another one, in a free bet, I took Austin Eckler over 12.5 carries and Austin Eckler 25+ receiving yards. So to me, this does, and that's another. That's not even this. We haven't talked about that side of the ball for the Chiefs. What is on paper? What was the one difference maker in this division we talked about this offseason? How the Chargers specifically stacked up on defense, how the Raiders defense improved last year, how the Broncos defense has been a good defense, but the Chiefs on paper have struggled.
Lost Tyrann Mathieu.
Now, being in Arrowhead, being at home in the home opener, primetime game, bless you, I think that's always going to, bless you again, propel them in some fashion. But how long does that home field, that crowd noise kind of play a factor?
It's interesting, man. You lose your leader in Tyrann Mathieu. That's one part of it. And then it does bring me back to, I know you talked about it earlier with Tyreek Hill. They didn't miss a beat against the Cardinals.
Right. How's that going to look?
How does that look against the Chargers? How does Travis Kelce look against Derwin James when you don't have Tyreek Hill outside?
He's probably getting doubled.
Right. Yeah, they would be dumb not to. I mean, it's interesting to think about. This is what we're talking about. This is like a measuring stick game tonight. We are going to see which one of these teams, if both, if neither, you know what I mean? Which one, or if
we're
both
spoiled, man. We are spoiled on this Thursday night matchup.
We are spoiled. Back-to-back Thursday night matchups, man.
And it's just going to nosedive right into the dirt after this.
I don't know what the next Thursday night game is, but I can only imagine.
It's Browns.
We got up for the Browns and Browns and Texans last year or something.
It's Browns. Well, it might not be so bad. It's Browns Steelers divisional matchup next week apparently.
No,
so
no
I can get behind it.
But
right, Jacoby Brissett versus Mitch Trubisky. Yeah, it'd be really cool. But nonetheless, that divisional rivalry going on. But all right, man. We talked about both defensive sides of the ball, both offensive sides of the ball. Before we get into our parlays that we have in our best bets for tonight, what is your gut feeling on the outcome? We disagreed last week. I'm pretty sure, even though the public, everyone in our pick'em pool is leaning KC, I think we agree on this one.
Something is telling me it's Chargers time, and I'm not, and I don't mean it, I don't mean it like, oh, it's their time, like they're going to win the Super Bowl. It's their time to take that next step. And that next step is winning big games. This is a huge game at the beginning of your season. Like we said, it's a barometer game you get to measure how good you really are.
Agreed.
The main thing tonight I want from the Chargers, do not come out here and get blown off the field. Like, that cannot happen.
You know what the main thing I want from the Chargers?
What was that?
You know what the main thing I want from the Chargers is?
What is that?
7-0 lead to start.
7-0 lead. I'm with you.
That's all I want, brother. So
Yes,
I'm picking
sir.
the
I
Chargers
need that.
to win,
We're
but all I
good.
really care about is a 7-point
good.
lead before so.
But Dylan, I am going Chargers tonight. I think, once again, I think the defense, I think that's what I'm looking at. The defense is going to shine through. I think that's where they can differentiate themselves, not only from the Chiefs, but from the rest of these teams. Their defense performed well last week against the Raiders, better than the Raiders defense. And we saw the Broncos. I know it's only 17 points, but it was the most disgusting 17 points you could ever endure as a football fan if you are rooting for that Denver Broncos team. So, if the Chargers can come out of this game, limit Mahomes to 3 passing touchdowns.
I think Mahomes throws a pick tonight.
He's got it. You got to get some pressure on him.
Yeah.
Throw some picks. Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
If either has a sack, who do you think has more sacks tonight, Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack?
Khalil Mack.
Khalil Mack. He had 3 last week. I mean, he's eating. And
I think
Mahomes
that's one
shouted him
point,
out,
right?
So.
Isn't that? But think about that. In the very beginning of this summer, we ranked our top 10 edge rushers. And I think in just a bad situation, kind of loss of time the last 2 years, we've forgotten how dominant Khalil Mack is now. Is he still himself from that first trade from
the Raiders?
Yeah. Like he's not that. He's not that, but I think he's still a very dominant piece. And when you have to show so much attention to the other side of the line with Joey Bosa over there, it frees up so much of what you can do. And then, like I said, in the background, like you had Derwin James, J.C. Jackson comes back tonight. Asante Samuel Jr. played some chippy football last week with Devontae Adams. I like the Chargers defense, man. It might look a little better with Kaiser White still on it, but thankfully he's here. But I agree with you, man. I'm going with the Chargers tonight. Part of it scares the shit out of me, but I
feel that.
I love the fact that the public is all over the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I absolutely do love that part. So, like I said, all I'm really hoping for is that 7-0 lead. But
I'm with you.
With that being said, let's get into some of our bets that we have in for tonight. So I have a bunch. I have a lot, Scotty. I do have the Chargers money line opted in for the early payout. So if whoever's watching, if you are 21 or older in a gambling state and you are on DraftKings, they do have early payout 7+ point lead. So whatever money line you choose, opt into it. And if your team goes up by 7 or more points at any point in the game, they pay you out that your team does not have to win. Another promo I was opted into. Now, I want to say not everybody got this promo. I know other people that got separate promos. But the promo I have is Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert each to throw 225+ passing yards, $50 max bet. Had to do that. Both are like Herbert's over is like 285. Mahomes over is like 297, 225+ in this type of game. I think it's going to be electric. Yeah. I love that. All right. Now here's where things get fun. This was a safe one, kind of. I have Justin Herbert over 249.5 passing yards. I have Austin Eckler 40+ rushing yards. Juju 45+ receiving yards. And Mike Williams 55+ receiving yards.
Okay.
And with the boost that DraftKings has running, I believe that came out to 25 pays 105, so came out to around like 315 or something like that. So not too shabby. No touchdown scores. I don't need any of it. Just get me that. Now, this is the one I kind of love. Austin Eckler 40+ rushing yards. Palmer filling in for Keenan Allen 40+ receiving yards. Travis Kelce, 60+ receiving yards. Mahomes, 200+ passing yards. Austin Eckler, anytime touchdown scorer. It is plus 409. It is a risk-free bet on FanDuel. 100 pays 509. If I lose, I get my 100 back in free bets.
Hey, there we go.
At this one.
Hey, I want to address something really quick. My mom just texted a fantasy football group chat. Has a bunch of my friends in it. Tried to say that we're disrespecting Patrick Mahomes.
Me?
Nobody. She's saying that we are disrespecting Patrick Mahomes on this show. So I just wanted to make you aware that there's no disrespect.
Time out, Mrs. Scotty. Mrs. Scotty. Yo, Yo, the beef to text privately and not throw the comment. Throw the comment on the screen.
Throw
Mrs.
the
Scotty.
comment on the screen.
I gotta see this. I'm not. First of all, this
No
man is
sneak
the
dissing.
baddest dude on the planet right now. He's my number one quarterback. Your son's got. Or no, you don't have Josh Allen over him, do you? When we did our
No, I
rankings?
don't. No, I
You were
don't.
close to doing it. I almost called you out for that.
Don't
the
you
baddest
throw that on
man.
me.
But I think overall, as a roster, as a team, defensively, you know why? Maybe she was mentioning how I said he was throwing a pick tonight. maybe that was the disrespect.
She's saying because we went against him. She's watching on TV, so she can't comment.
Oh, thank you. On the big screen?
On the big screen.
Big
man.
screen.
We're going
Excuse
big.
the mug. Hold on. I need a mask next time. But
No, but I do.
I love when the public's against me. I love it. So
It's a good feeling. It makes you
Yeah.
feel like you know something that everybody else
Yeah.
doesn't. But maybe
and then when I
we'll
win,
be
I get to
feeling-
give you a little shoulder bump. Like, on my way.
Maybe we'll be feeling weird after the game. But I got two parlays for you. I got one. Let's win or go home, and then I have one. Let's be safe. We're gonna stay in tonight. So
I dig it.
we're
gonna stay in
I got-
tonight.
I got a parlay. So I got Chargers money line. I may learn to regret that. Who knows?
Yo, you're bold for that.
I'm banking on.
Did you
a
do the early
high-scoring
payout?
game. What was that?
You did the early payout,
I did do the
and
early
you threw it in a
payout.
parlay. You are ballsy, bro.
I'm going big or going home.
Oh,
my
that's
man.
right. This is
The
the Let's Go Out-
Chargers. The
Yeah.
Chargers. The Chiefs are the favorite. The underdog being the Chargers.
Yeah, this
decided
is
to
the
throw it
this
on
is we're going clubbing one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I got the Chargers money line. I got Eckler TD.
Mhm.
I got Kelsey TD.
Two favorites. I like it.
I got Herbert plus 250.
Uh-huh.
I got Mahomes. No, I didn't throw Mahomes on this one. So excuse me, I didn't put Mahomes on this one.
I respect it.
So
The
Herbert-
disrespect, Scotty.
I know. Because I thought about putting Mahomes 250 plus, but I told you earlier I didn't want to shoot myself too far here. So Herbert 250 plus, Palmer 29.5 plus. So I'm with you on the 40 plus. I just need 30, but and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire 10 plus receiving yards.
Interesting.
Kelsey 65 plus receiving yards. So when you told me the Derwin stats,
I threw him 16 and 2.
Yeah. But we're gonna see Kelsey.
What are those odds
in Kansas City? With my 50% parlay boost, it comes out to plus 2250. It is regularly plus 1500 though, so still a nice payout even if you don't got the parlay boost. I got a safer one where I went Mike Williams anytime touchdown. So kind of going in a different direction. I call it safe, different direction in reality. Herbert 250 plus. I'm banking on that. I went Mahomes 250 plus in this one because I do ultimately think they're going to shoot it out. If it goes the way I expect, they're going to be up in the 30s, high 20s tonight. Mike Williams 55 plus. I'm with you, and then Marquez Valdes-Scantling with 30 plus receiving yards.
Okay.
That one comes out to I didn't even mark it down, man.
No, it's all right. Wait,
All
so
good,
I
all
also
good.
have
You
a free bet. I have a free
Like
bet
plus
for my points bet
450 or
people.
something.
This is my free bet I put in for my points bet people. I have Palmer 25 plus receiving, Eckler 25 plus receiving, Eckler over 12.5 carries. Little risky, but he rushed 13 or 14 times last week. And then I have
should get him one more too.
Yeah, I have a Mecole Hardman anytime TD. Yeah, that came out
like
to
that.
plus 1100, I believe.
He's the deep shot. I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
If he touches the ball, there's a good chance he could score on a deep
I agree.
shot.
And
So,
I the value plus
I'm with you.
280. I was like, you know what, free bet. Let me roll these die real quick. But with all that being said, my man, we were like, you know what, man, this is going to go 30, 35 minutes tonight. Here we are at the
Never.
50-minute mark. It never. No, come on. Why would
not
it?
with a matchup like this.
Why
Maybe
would it?
on another Thursday.
No, when it's Jacksonville, Houston, I'm going to be sitting Travis Etienne, Doug P.
We'll have to
45
battle,
minutes.
man, because it looks like James Robinson's making a comeback.
Yeah, I know, for real. All right, guys.
Last week.
Appreciate everyone who watched live, to everyone who's going to watch, to everyone who commented, especially you, Miss Scotty, even though you threw shade at me without putting it in the chat. I'll give you a break on this week. Guys, if you're new to the channel, head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Hit that follow button. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Head on over to the link tree in our bio. Specifically, head on over to the YouTube channel. We're at 650, Scotty.
Yes.
On the road to 700. We are almost there. Guys, we greatly, greatly appreciate it if you can just hit that subscribe button. It's free. Click a button, tap a button. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Who cares, right? Like this video. Do whatever you got to do. I'm one half of your host at DylanJD98. Give my man Scotty a follow at Scotty John. We will be back right here live on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter accounts Sunday, 10 a.m., getting you ready for the Sunday full slate, as well as we'll be back Monday night, and we'll be on Eagles pregame show. A lot of stuff is going on here at DSM Media. You don't want to miss any of the action. For myself, for Scotty, for George Ryder, have a great night.
Hey, George.
One-on-one.
Flares out to the right. Caught over the